In this video, let's talk about the color science of virtual production and new product updates with Brompton technology.
Real quick, you're watching VP Land. Special thanks to our sponsors, Blackmagic and Atomos, for helping make our NAB coverage possible. And now back to the video.
All right, I'm here with Cesar from Brompton Technology. Cesar, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much for having me.
So for people that are not familiar with Brompton, can you tell me just what is Brompton Technology?
Of course. So Brompton Technology is an LED processor. So we focus in controlling LED panels. But the main focus of what we do is to make sure that the quality of these panels and the reliability, of course, because things cannot go down when you are in the top end of the industry. But as well, the quality and the output of these panels is amazing.
Yes, and so tell me a bit more about what we're seeing here set up with the panels that you have on display.
Yes, of course. So we have here a setup that can be used perfectly for something like virtual production. It's an in-camera LED setup. And for us, we have been working for many years, as I said, it's all about quality, right? Mm-hmm. The first thing that you want to achieve when you want to recreate reality, that this is all that virtual production is about. It's about recreating reality. But to recreate reality, you need to get the most out of every single pixel of every single panel that you have in the back. So we have been working with panel manufacturers and with a new calibration system and our color workflows to make sure that this looks all incredible. Now, once we achieved that, when we got our great HDR and the highlights look very, very bright, and we have the low-end brightness, for example, very important in camera as well, the low end can be a little bit in trouble when you are, because you get more steps. Mm-hmm. And more when you're in camera because you have to reduce the brightness a little bit. So to achieve all this detail and to be able to see the content how it's meant to be, we have been working many features like extended bit depth and dark magic. Shutter sync, of course, that is the one that allows the camera to synchronize with the LED panel to avoid artifacts. Anyone that has put ever a phone in front of the TV, they know that things don't work very, very well. Yeah. Exactly. So in order to improve all that, we have been developing many, many tools. Now, this has been over the years. Obviously, the pandemic was a big time for virtual production. And we were in a lucky place just before that we had been working in how LED in camera is going to be improved. But after that, once we got that sorted, obviously there is some other tools that we are showing here with our new 3.5 release. But just last year in NAB, we shown RGBW or True Light technology. That was in partnership with Rode. They were releasing their RGBW panels, the CV5, and we had our True Light technology coming out of the G1 card. And that was a game changer because something that happened in any big volume is that when you go in, the first thing that you realize is that every single person looks very, very red. Again, we are trying to recreate reality. So that person definitely doesn't belong to that space. Now, by having better color rendering, basically, that is what the extra editor is doing, we are achieving this reality and a much better starting point for director and for DOPs, just so they can focus in the artistic part, in the creative part of doing their shoot, rather than in fixing the technical issues that are happening.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about the history of just sort of the color science with virtual production, of like how the panels have evolved and like what some of the challenges have been in getting accurate color?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the main things that, as I was saying before, it's calibration, right? One of the main things, the first thing that we realized is that with the calibration existing before 2018, we were not able to take as much advantage of every single pixel as we needed. For things like HDR, that is very important. I mean, HDR obviously gives you a more realistic view of the content. So for things like that, we didn't have the tools. I mean, we had the tools in the processor, but without the right calibration, it was not possible to achieve. So first thing we did, new calibration system, we call it dynamic calibration. It allows you flexibility to be able to push a little bit the brightness of these panels because just to make it very short, calibration, what it does is to reduce a little bit the brightness just so all the pixels can achieve the same thing. So at this point, we had an amazing calibration that was giving us the possibilities to make the most out of these panels. Once we had that, obviously, one thing that we had for a very long time, is LED processing. What we do is make sure that these panels look amazing, right? So we had color workflows, we had tools to modify and to tweak our colors a little bit. But with this dynamic calibration, it allows you to select your color targets. And this is fundamental for cinematographers because they don't always work in the same color space. Not all the cameras record in the same color space either. So there is many variables that could happen during a shooting that we had already tools that they could use for that. Besides that, we had I mean, we implemented 3D LUTs, so you can import 3D LUTs into the processor, and that
To
evolved.
display on your wall to put what's on your
Exactly.
On your outputs.
And that evolved into integrations with Pomfort, with Assimilate. So suddenly cinematographers have the same tools that they have been using for many, many years, and they can use it directly in this new innovation that was virtual production. One of the main things when you have something new, you have to make it easy for the people that use it day to day.
Not an engineer or not
Exactly,
a scientist.
exactly. It's not. It should not be feel completely new. It should be feel a little bit natural.
Do you feel like it's going to be like kind of the progression of like VP tools where it's just they make a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier to use for people that are not a Unreal expert or a technical expert?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things. I mean, we are very passionate about education in general, and not only in virtual production, but in many other tools. Because the truth is that these industries they are getting a little bit more complicated all the time. While in the past, virtual LED panels were used, yes, in theater, in live events, and they had their complications. But suddenly, you get into an environment where realism is fundamental. Realism is not easy, but realism is fundamental. And as well, there is so many tools involved. So suddenly you have media servers, you have Unreal Engine, you have scene generators, you have full networks, rendering content, cameras, you have trackers, you have LED panels, color workflows. So things start getting very, very complicated. So I absolutely believe that the next steps, while right now we have many tools to make amazing content, and it still is evolving a little bit with things like AI, but right now we have very strong tools to create the content incredibly, and it's being used in massive productions all around the world. Still making it a little bit easier is going to be the future and the future evolution of these technologies.
Yeah. Was there anything else here they wanted to cover that was Brompton was announcing?
Yes, of course. So right now we are showing here two things. Obviously 3.5, for Brompton releasing a new generation of processors, having a hardware is something very, very important. We have to make sure that it is the best hardware because this is what our customers are expecting. So it has to be the best hardware in the market for as long as it is the position, right? So our SX40 is still in most of the biggest productions all around the world, and it's receiving now the 3.5 release. 3.5 is bringing quite a few new tools, so we have a couple of things like custom markers in which you can just put, imagine that you are an act that is in a LED volume. It can be a bit overwhelming. If you have been in an LED volume, suddenly you have a lot of information all around that it looks very similar to the real world, but it's a little bit distorted and it can be a little bit overwhelming in some places. So now you can put some markers that the camera will not see, but you can use as cues like, okay, where should I move? Oh, I should move to this position, or I should look to that camera. So you can give
the markers
visual,
on the floor or in the wall?
wherever you need them. So you can just place them or draw them or import an image and you have your markers.
And this is markers not being filmed, so is this through like your frame remapping? Like
It's actually an evolution through frame remapping. Instead of doing two frames, what we are doing now is we are only showing this when the shutter is closed. So when the shutter is closed, so the frame is black, we show the frame. And when the shutter opens, we remove it. So it will only be seen by the human eye, but it will not be seen by the camera itself.
And so this one's for people to see, not for the camera to see.
And without penalty, because that's the most important thing. To do things like frame remapping, you need to send double the amount of frames. That means that you can use half the amount of panels, so you need double the amount of processing, right? So what we are by doing this and by doing it in the panel itself, now there is no penalty. Just with your same system, you just update, load the image, and it is done, and it is ready for you.
Nice.
But this is just one of the tools. I mean, we have many other ones. We have one called dark time insertion, and gamers know about this one a little bit because what we are doing is inserting a little bit of black between frame and frame. You can enable it and disable it, but when you have very fast-moving content, it cleans it. The motion blur that you usually used to see in the past is not happening anymore. So it suddenly looks like a very clean image. And many other features, because obviously we are always bringing more and more innovation. And besides that, of course, I cannot leave without mentioning our new next generation. For us, it's very important releasing a new generation. The SX40 has been already the best LED processor in the market since end of 2018. So it is 6 years. Now we are working in the next one. The next one is going to be, it's 20 times more powerful than the SX40, so you can imagine. It does 8K, it can do 4x4K, it has 4 input cards. new technologies that are happening and that are going to be the future of most industries, 2110, IPMX, these things are going to be very, very important. When you have a studio that is 60 meters wide with 270 degrees of panels, suddenly sending the resolution, is going to be very wide and very short. This type of resolution are very inefficient for LED panels because you have to send a normal aspect ratio, and then this aspect ratio you have to crop it to put the right part in your LED panels. Not anymore. With things like IPMX, you can send exactly the amount of pixels, the amount of lines that you need. So you optimize not only in the input of the processor, but as well the rendering, and that's money. Every single line that you create in Unreal to create your virtual space, every single line has to be processed and has to be rendered. And that is obviously very expensive. By optimizing it with these new technologies, we are going to see a new wave in how the technology is going.
Yeah. All right, so what are we about to look at here?
So we're looking at true light. So can you see how our skin looks when we are only illuminated by RGB panels? Our skin looks very reddish. This is just because of the spectrum of light. The quality of the light is not good enough. Now, don't get me wrong, for our eyes, it's amazing. This is all we need. We need red, green, and blue. Because our eyes take red, green, and blue. So when you get red and green, it will come into your eye and you see orange. That's basically how it works, right? But that you have only red, green, and blue, when it bounces in your skin, and these are the components that your skin needs to have, when they bounce out, they will be shifting colors. And that's why we see each other orange. It can be seen very well in the color chart. We can see how the reds are very saturated, while other colors are a little bit more stable. And it is all about stability of the signal. And this is RGBW. It's basically exactly the same color in the LED panel. So if we look at them, it is exactly the same color.
Right, it looks the same.
But the light that is bouncing on us suddenly changes. Why? Because it is a broader spectrum, so it is taking the right shades from our skin and sending us to our eyes. And now in the color checker chart, you can see that the colors are a lot more stable. That this is the whole point of it, right? Is to see that everything is working correctly. So colors like here or here, they don't really change too much, while this or this is making a big difference.
Yeah, I see that keeps shifting.
Absolutely, and that can become a massive issue in post-production. Because let's forget about how we look, right? Even though we look like we have been in the sun for the last couple of days.
In the desert out here. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, here in the desert. But that might be fine. The truth is that what we want to see is us in comparison to the background. Because you want to merge the virtual world with the physical world.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to make sure that the lighting is correct. And that's why it is important.
And is this lighting change, is this all happening through the Brompton software, or is it happening through the panels?
Absolutely. So the panels have an extra emitter. So they have, in this case, white. And Brompton, what it's doing is controlling that. Now, why Brompton and why the new receiver card that we released last year? And that actually won the Best of Show last year here in NAB. The main reason is because it's the calibration of it. What you want is that the color of these panels, the color of the light that we are looking at right now, and the color of the back LED has to be exactly the same. We're talking about realism, right? We're talking about the real world. When you go to the real world, the background and the foreground, everybody's calibrated with the same colors. So being able to calibrate this pixel per pixel with the extra emitter is extremely difficult. There is an extra emitter, that means one extra color. Video is RGB. Where does the white come from? It comes from a very complex algorithm that these panels, this car, is processing for every single pixel, for every single second, at the color that you are looking at. So in order to achieve that, we need to, and that's why it didn't happen before, we need to release the new G1. The G1, we were lucky to have access to one of the most powerful FPGAs for this kind of use, and now we can have something like TrueLight. And it has been a game changer. I mean, we had all sorts of people, from cinematographers to other manufacturers, coming and looking at this. It makes people's life a lot easier because, as I said, right now what is happening is that gaffers, lighting guys, what they're trying to do is to compensate this red that we just saw. They're trying to compensate it with other light that has more than 3 emitters. Not anymore. Now they can just focus in doing the creative part of their job. That is a lot easier for everybody because it is a lot closer to the normal workflow of recording in the street, but with the benefits of recording in virtual production.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Cesar. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the rest of our NAB coverage over here at this playlist and hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next episode.